I don't usually preface these with a warning, but all three of the people who sent these in said the same thing when they reached out, that they almost didn't send it because they were embarrassed. Not because of what happened to them, but because of how it started. A stranger, a moment of trust. And then everything went wrong very fast. These are their stories. This happened about 3 years ago when I was living alone in an apartment in Chicago. I want to be up front that I'm someone who considers himself pretty aware of his surroundings. I grew up in a rough neighborhood and I learned early to pay attention to people. What happened to me happened anyway. I think about that a lot. Okay. I was at a bar with a friend on a Saturday night. Busy place, loud music, the kind of environment where you're not really paying close attention to anyone specific. My friend left early and I stayed for another drink. That's when a woman sat down next to me at the bar and started talking. She was friendly and sharp, and the conversation felt natural. After about an hour, she mentioned she was new to the city and didn't really know anyone yet. She seemed lonely in a way that felt real, not performed. She asked if I wanted to get food somewhere nearby. I said yes. We walked 2 blocks to a late night place and sat down. Everything was still completely normal. But then she excused herself to use the restroom and was gone for a long time. Maybe 10 minutes. When she came back, something was slightly different about her energy, harder to describe. She seemed distracted, kept glancing toward the door. I didn't act on that feeling. I should have. And we left the restaurant and she suggested walking toward the lakefront. It was late, but it wasn't unusual. About halfway there, 2 men stepped out from a side street directly in front of us. They weren't random. The way they moved made it immediately clear they had been waiting. One of them looked at her and gave this small nod. I understood what was happening in about half a second. I ran. I didn't think about it. I just ran back the way we had come. One of them came after me for about a block before giving up. I made it back to the main street, flagged down a passing car, and asked the driver to stay with me until I could call someone to pick me up. And I had my wallet, my phone, and my keys on me. I don't know exactly what they planned, but I know it wasn't good. When I filed a police report, the officer told me this was a known pattern in that area. A woman makes contact at a bar, builds enough trust to get someone alone, and then the people waiting do whatever they came to do. And I never saw her again. I don't know her name. I think about that nod a lot. How casual it was. Like it was something she had done many times before. I was Ursher working a late shift at a distribution warehouse outside of Memphis. Thursday nights were always slow, and my shift ended at midnight. The drive home took about 25 minutes on a route that cut through a stretch of road with almost nothing on either side. Gas stations, a closed diner, and darkness. That particular night, I stopped at a gas station about halfway home. I was filling up when a woman pulled in and parked at the pump next to mine. She looked to be around my age, well-dressed, and she seemed distressed. She was staring at her phone with this expression like something had gone seriously wrong. I asked if she was okay. She said her card wasn't working, and she was almost out of gas and needed to get to her sister's house across town. She seemed genuine, nervous, not threatening. I offered to pay for her gas. She thanked me, and while I was paying, she mentioned her phone was also dying and asked if she could use mine to call her sister. I handed it over without thinking twice. She made the call, handed it back, thanked me again, and drove off. I thought nothing of it. I drove home, went to sleep, and woke up the next morning to 3 text messages from numbers I didn't recognize. All 3 said some version of the same thing, that they knew where I lived, that they had been watching me, that I should leave a specific amount of cash in a specific location by a specific time or things would get bad. I sat there reading those messages, trying to understand what was happening. Then I checked my phone's recent activity and realized what she had done. In the 30 seconds, she had my phone, she had opened my contacts, forwarded my home address from a message thread to an unknown number, and deleted the sent message. She had also checked my recent apps and seen my banking app, which I had left open. They knew my name, my address, and roughly what I had in my account. I called the police immediately. They took a report, but were honest with me that without a plate number or a clear face on the gas station camera, there wasn't much they could do quickly. The gas station footage showed her pulling in, but the angle wasn't good enough. I didn't pay the money. I changed my locks that same day, stayed at my brother's place for a week, and filed a report with my bank. Nothing physical ever happened, but for months afterward, I was looking over my shoulder every time I left the house. And the whole thing took maybe 4 minutes at a gas station. That's all it took. I've gone back and forth about sending this in for a long time. Not because I'm ashamed exactly, but because I still don't fully understand all of it, and I don't like telling stories I can't completely explain. But enough time has passed that I think I can talk about it. And 4 years ago, I was going through a bad stretch. I had just gone through a breakup, I wasn't sleeping well, and I was spending too much time alone. I was in my early 30s, living in a mid-sized city in Georgia, and I was not in a great headspace. I met her at a grocery store, of all places. She was standing in the aisle, looking at something on a shelf, and she asked me a completely ordinary question about a product. We ended up talking for 20 minutes in that aisle. She was easy to talk to in a way that felt uncommon. By the time we left the store, we had exchanged numbers. We texted for about a week before meeting up. Nothing about any of it felt wrong. She seemed completely normal, smart, funny, consistent, not overly eager, not evasive, normal. The first time we met in person was at a coffee shop near my apartment. Everything was fine. Good, even. She mentioned she lived across town with a roommate and was thinking about getting her own place. She asked a lot of questions about my neighborhood. I answered them all because they seemed like normal questions. Looking back, they weren't. The second time we met, she suggested coming to my place. I said yes. That evening went fine too, but after she left, I noticed small things. My spare key, which I kept in a bowl near the door, had been moved to a different position. My laptop, which I had left open on the coffee table, was now slightly angled differently, not dramatically. Just enough that if I hadn't been paying a particular kind of attention, I would never have noticed. And I didn't say anything. I told myself I was being paranoid. The third time she came over, she used my bathroom at one point and was in there longer than made sense. When I checked later, the small window above the toilet, which I had always kept latched, was unlatched. That was the moment I knew something was very wrong. I didn't confront her. I acted normal for the rest of the evening and told her I had an early morning. After she left, I called my friend who works in building security and described everything. He told me to change my locks immediately and to check every entry point in my apartment. I did all of that the same night. I also did something I'm not proud of, but don't regret. I looked through what little I actually knew about her and tried to find something real. The name she had given me returned almost nothing online. The neighborhood she said she lived in, the street she had mentioned once in passing, I drove by it. The building she had described didn't match what was actually there. I stopped responding to her texts. She sent a few follow-up messages over the next couple of days that were completely casual, like nothing had happened. Then she stopped. 3 weeks later, my downstairs neighbor's apartment was broken into. Clean entry, no forced door or windows. The building manager said it looked like someone had used a key or known exactly how to access the window latch from outside. I reported everything to the police at that point. I don't know if it was connected. I don't know what she was actually planning or who she was working with or whether she had done it before. What I know is that she had been inside my apartment at least twice. She had studied the layout and the entry points, and then someone broke into the unit directly below mine. And I moved out 2 months later. I still think about those 20 minutes in the grocery store and how completely ordinary it all felt. That's the part that stays with me, not the fear, the ordinariness of how it started.